Hey everyone. It has been, what, 2 months maybe? Or so since the last update. I'm actually going back to my branch 2 weeks ago because that was a good stopping point. I was just on such a roll, I didn't want to stop and make a video and write a blog post. Um, so, if you last time, just to catch you up again, was all about pathfinding and porting to iOS 9 for movement. This time was about trying to revisit combat, stabilize it, improve it, make it look a little better, and port it to iOS 9 as well, like the steering behaviors when individual units are walking. So I went down that route. Got a lot accomplished, but let me just jump in and show you where we're at right now, and I'll go over a few things. So we've got waves. Let's move our people into position for the waves that are coming. Spawning off the map was actually something that didn't work just because it's not part of the nav mesh grid and you don't want people to be able to walk off the map. So that's half fixed right now. But anyway, the first wave will come, which means there's some sort of AI. All the hard coding that I had before is gone. I'll talk about that in a second. Range, if you saw the the actual UI for range combat, just showing something in range, and his shield turned red for the target that was in range. You'll see as they're walking, one of these guys will maybe hopefully die because missing and random chances built into these arrows. You can see some stick in the ground, so those that miss stick in the ground. And then they eventually engage, but they're going to die before they even get there. So next we'll show. So here's a question I haven't solved yet: is after combat, when you reform, do you face the exact opposite of the way when you entered combat, or do you walk? Do you just stay where you are? What should happen to units afterwards? There's a few edge cases there, but anyway, we'll attack with the swordsman this time. Range works again. The other thing that works is, so I'm moving now. I can still move, but once I'm engaged in combat, the move icon is locked. I can't move anymore. That'll actually turn into a flee icon eventually, and that's the only way out of combat once you've locked into combat. The enemy archers also have a separate AI path that they have to check against range. That is hard-coded to one ability, so if they had more than one ability, that would not work right now. And I'll talk a bit more about that later. But anyway, we have basically something you can play without completely breaking. People are not walking, they don't seem super intelligent, but they're not walking in circles quite yet, which is a good sign. And then you notice the yellow troops died. The enemy AI is smart enough to go, okay, well, let's go attack the red troops and find a way there. And their AI is actually looking at the actual nav mesh, finding the path, looking at the strength of a unit and seeing. It's definitely not finished. It's not in depth. It's only 4 functions right now, but it's doing something other than, hey, just pick a random number and attack a unit. And to do that, I'm using Sprite Kit, or Gameplay Kit has a GK rule system, which is basically you set up rules, you set up state, and it'll evaluate the rules. And it's slightly modified, so it's not just 0 or 1 as the results. It can be fractions. So I have a weighting system for each function, and how I'm gonna have to spend a whole bunch of time on how to balance that, but that's for later. Point being, the code to like process rules is set up. Also, other edge cases, like a huge one of getting to corners of maps with my nav mesh was a big pain, and that is I've through trial and error narrowed down what SpriteKit is doing behind the scenes, so that I can now manually insert fixes if they're not finding the right nodes. Then you see a victory screen, which works, and a defeat screen also works if you lose. You can continue, go back to world map, and you could replay the mission or continue on. I may have showed this last time, but I have everything set up to be all in iOS 9 converted, just the old code that I had. And this all works on an iPhone as well now, like the scale, the side detection. So the framework for this is in place. You select a level to replay it. And then let me just show you another thing, which was cutscenes. Those are kind of going on the side. Two things going on with those, but I'll show you a sneak peek at kind of where they're at. I'm gonna skip there. Now that you've seen it once, it was just static art. Now you have fades, you have fog, you have a glowing thing, you have light source up here, you have fog in the background, you have much smoother camera movements, everything like that. That's just, and then the music, Tony, who wrote all the music for this, he, out of his own goodwill, he just did another pass on every song to touch it up and try to clean it up. So I've transferred all that over too. So that stuff is moving along good. Story's in place, and people are working on it while I'm working on the actual game. So anyway, that's where we're at. A couple of specifics. Let me stop this so we can come back to it. So we port combat movement, port the state machine engaging. So everyone has an array of who's attacking them and who they are attacking, and it's constantly checking engaging and disengaging, because let's say you have two units, a unit's engaging one unit, but then another unit steps in the way, because per frame it has to go. He can't just try to plow through and get to that guy in the back. He has to then change his mind and attack the closer guy, which means he has to remove his original target from his array and add a new one. So there's a lot of data integrity checks that need to go on to make sure that people with confidence know who they're attacking and who they're not attacking, because it all changes per frame. And also when someone dies, they need to be cleaned up from these arrays. Like, I did a full pass on all of that as I was porting it to iOS 9. And so far, because I have it printing when people are attacking air or, doing something dumb that doesn't come off as a smart AI, it's cleaned up a lot. Line of sight, so let me show you a GIF. This shows you kind of what's going on. Basically, this is a surrounded unit attack from both sides. First of all, they were attacked from this side, and the people in the back will turn and attack the people who are coming against them. The next thing is, you'll notice, this guy is standing back. It's because he doesn't have a line of sight. So each unit is actually doing 10 line of sight checks. First, they prioritize all targets based on distance. And then they do a line of sight check and come up with who they should attack. And if they have no one, they just do their best to stay in formation. Eventually, they'll stay closer in formation. This is just so I can visually see that they don't have a target. I also had to build a whole debugging layer that draws red lines to see, you know, what's going on, and all of that was done in this past update too. Other things like if a unit's walking and another unit attacks, they have to update their path every 2 seconds, you know, to make sure they're properly going to intercept the unit. And then also, once they're within engage range, the defending unit has to stop walking and let the attackers attack. So things like that. So being attacked by multiple units, being attacked by a moving unit, being surrounded by units, you know, all of that. Kind of just did a first pass on it. It's not perfect, but I don't know if you remember last time, things were like plowing through each other, just walking and attacking. Now they look a little smarter, and now I have a framework that I can gradually add functions to make them more intelligent. 40 versus 40. Basically, we can... Let's do 30 just because 40 is kind of a lot. You would never have 40 units in the game, but let's see how it looks. If I remember, I didn't actually test this before the video, so I can't promise anything, but it should work out just fine. While that's building, I'll cover the last things. UI action bar, locks, unlocks, you know, tying that to actions. Same with ranged combat. AI we spoke about briefly of where that's at in the progress on cutscenes. So that's kind of where things are at. And then where they're going is improved AI, but more importantly, so where I am with my current build is about like a 4,000 line refactor to make abilities fully dynamic. You have abilities, modifiers, projectiles. I've removed the concept of shooting or attacking. Everything is now abilitying. All code references just data structures of abilities that will modify hit points or speed. They're either instant or damage or duration or damage over time, with rules and categorization and criteria. So they're all cramped because of the fence there. Anyway, this huge ability factor, I don't need to go into it right now, but I'll talk about it more next time. It also opens the door to leveling up, because now for leveling up, I only have to save a small data structure of the modification to an ability, which is what I'm working on. In addition to the refactor, leveling up these guys and giving them experience, and then showing them with some new units on level 2 and doing the nav mesh for level 2. Hoping to have all that done by the end of the month, and then get it installed on someone's device shortly after. So that's kind of where it's at. It's definitely becoming more of a game now. I know you just see this one level. Once this one level is perfect, adding assets into new abilities is not hard at all. It's getting all this foundation right and sound and scalable. Anyway, let's just see how they handle a large fight. I mean, they're not swarming all over each other, which is good. People die, they advance to the next. You know, before, when everything used to go and spread out to a huge sandwich, now that line of sight's limited, things tend to stay more compact into the structure, like when they entered combat. But it does give unpredictable results because it allows some units to get surrounded. This was an equal fight, but it looks like the bad guys are going to destroy. They have the same hit points and same damage, so I have to make sure balance is somewhat predictable, or the game would just be unfair. So that's the kind of things to deal with at this point also. Anyway, that's it for this update. It gives you a good idea of where I'm at, and then I am back to work. All right, see ya.